Mike Gallagher.
Did you see the Bernie Sanders clip with Bret Baier last night about dismissing the notion of him flying commercial? It's unbelievable. These guys are such hypocrites. Every one of them. They're such frauds. It reminds me of Elizabeth Warren getting off a private jet and trying to hide behind a couple of staff members. She didn't want to be seen getting off a private jet. Yeah, Mr. Fight for the Common Man, the little guy. What am I going to do? Stand in line to get on a United commercial flight? I got 30,000 people waiting for it. It's unbelievable. We'll play that clip for you. If you haven't heard it, it is astounding. It's astounding. And with no hint of self-awareness, no recognition of what an elitist snob jerk he sounds like. It's incredible. You know, they've caught Bernie Sanders and AOC flying around with their stupid Stop the Oligarchy tour, which is only a money grab. All they're trying to do is fundraise. And they're flying private. You know what it costs to fly a private jet? It's tens of thousands of dollars for one leg. One stop is $30,000-$40,000. Not to mention the big fat carbon footprint it's leaving. I saw that clip last night. I thought, no, that's got to be AI, right? That's AI. Well, I can assure you, it's not. Check out Bernie Sanders, the socialist from Vermont, getting indignant when Bret Baier had the gall to ask him, why are you flying around the country on a private jet as you're trying to stop the rich, fat cat, elitist billionaires? Isn't that hypocrisy, Senator Sanders?
Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the Oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No, it doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel is about. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it in the future.
That's right. No apologies. You think I'm going to wait in line? Get on a United plane? These clowns are beyond satire. They're oblivious. They're oblivious to the cartoon characters they really are. Wow. Good old Bernie Sanders, the gift that keeps giving. I always love these clowns who lecture everybody about how we're supposed to save the planet and we're all guilty if we use more than one square of toilet paper at a time. But they're flying around the country because they're so important, they can't be bothered to fly commercial. I saw that clip last night. I thought, that cannot be real. I didn't see the full interview with Bret Baier and Bernie Sanders. I couldn't believe it. Do we have the short version? We have the short version of it? I think there's like a 15-second version. You think I'm going to stand online to get on a United Airlines flight? I mean, it's incredible. And, everybody shrugs their shoulder. Here's a text from Florida. Bernie is a hypocrite. Big deal. It's not important. It's not important. You know why it's not important to you, Florida? Because you accept the unacceptable. You accept the narrative. Well, they're all a bunch of frauds and they all lie and they all are hypocrites. And you just accept it. You shrug your shoulders. Bernie Sanders, play it one more time. It's a little bit longer than I want, but I'd love to just isolate the part where he is such an elitist that he turns up his nose at the idea of standing at a United Airlines gate like the rest of us have to do, like normal people do every day. You could absolutely fly commercial on your Stop the Oligarchy tour.
Free Beacon
It reminds me of Billy Graham. Billy Graham, one of the most famous stories about Billy Graham is how modestly he lived. And I have to admit, I know I'm going to open up a whole can of worms over the so-called prosperity gospel style. But when I see some of these television evangelists who live like absolute just kings, I mean, huge mansions and private helicopters and private jets. And look, we can spend time on this as a subject someday, but I admit I'm a little bothered because I keep thinking about Billy Graham, who essentially lived in a very modest home his whole life. And he had one of the world's most impressive ministries in the history of ministry. And he didn't live in a big fancy mansion. He was humble. He was a man of God. And he prayed with Republican and Democrat presidents. And I just think about Billy Graham when I see, I mean, nothing against Joel Osteen. I'm sure he does great work. You ever see his home? Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like Buckingham Palace on steroids. T.D. Jakes. You ever see the guy that has been the pastor of the Potter's House? he doesn't live in a Potter's house. These folks live like big time gazillionaires, like oligarchs. the subject of Bernie Sanders' wrath. So it makes me, but again, that's kind of a different subject, but I also think there's an applicable comparison here. Because when Bernie Sanders claims to care about the middle class and the working class, here he is with Bret Baier last night making no apologies for flying private from city to city, spewing his Trump hatred.
Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the Oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No, it doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United, waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel
for that
is
whatsoever. You think I'm going to wait in line
in the future
at Newark Airport to get on a United flight like the rest of you bums? And you know what to me is the giveaway of what that fraud said? It's that there are 30,000 people waiting for him. He's such a big deal. We got 30,000 people. I can't get to them on United Airlines. I got to get to them on a private jet because that's how important I am. That's how much better I am than everybody else. Bernie Sanders doesn't care about the working class. How many homes does Bernie Sanders own? You ever looked into that? You think AOC cares about hardworking, tax-paying schlubs who fly commercial? And here's a text from Massachusetts who says, Mike, your Florida texter is wrong. These clowns think they're better than everyone else. Bernie should be called out and embarrassed for his rank hypocrisy. 800-655-6453. Joe's in Columbus, Ohio. One open line. We'll get with Bill Bunkley here in just a moment and talk a little bit about Governor DeSantis. Here's Joe. Hey, Joe, welcome aboard. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course. Glad you joined us.
Hey, Bernie is part of the problem. He is part of the oligarchy. Okay, you just mentioned he's got multiple homes. He considers himself above the average person. and he's just being a hypocrite. I can remember when I first started flying and working for the government. I can remember one time coming back from D.C., we were having some problems, and finally some guy sitting next to me stood up and said, "John, can't you tell the pilot to get this plane off the ground?" It was my congressman. He was flying coach, just like me.
Wow. And he's back in the coach.
So,
and they could all fly coach just like you. And they could absolutely
Yes,
be
they
on
could.
a commercial flying. And they don't. They won't do it. Look at the movie stars who preach about climate change. Do you realize what kind of a carbon footprint a private jet creates? Well, they don't care. They're better than you. They'll tell you you got to save the planet, and then they'll get on their Gulfstream 5 to fly off to the Cannes Film Festival. Pathetic. 19 minutes before the hour. Incidentally, portions of our show sponsored by the Hotel Hartness, my home away from home when I visit the upstate of South Carolina. Travel and Leisure's World Best rates Hotel Hartness the #1 resort in the entire state, the 3rd best resort in the country, and number 24 in the world. It's right in the upstate. You can stay there too. Go to hotelhartness.com, hotelhartness.com. A lot of text messages about the pastors and the televangelists who live in big mansions. Colorado writes, "Those guys you mentioned do not teach the true gospel of Christ. Their lifestyle says it all. Steer clear." You know, you wonder sometimes, would Jesus live in an 80-room mansion? I mean, I know I'm going to get all kinds of trouble here. Colorado, those rich televangelists are probably hardcore atheists. Billy Graham, here's South Carolina. Billy Graham once went to Europe and they criticized him because he took a big ocean liner to get over there. Reverend Graham's reply was, "If you can find me a donkey that can walk on water, I'd buy it in a minute." Arizona. Billy Graham was the real deal. It's a real fascinating issue, because I also know that I don't think God frowns on financial success. In fact, just the opposite. I'm getting into waters here that I should stay out of. I'm wading into territory that I should completely avoid. But the truth is, it feels a little off-putting to see how some of these folks live. I mean, it's amazing. And I don't even know if it was real, but supposedly it was a picture of Joel Osteen's home. Tracy, can you find a story about Joel Osteen's home? He's got a very popular, likable guy, big smile, you know, he does his thing. And, you know, I also give him a lot of grace, because I'll bet Joel Osteen has brought a lot of people to the Lord. So you got to remember that. I want to remember that. I do remember that. I want to keep that in mind. But my gosh, how big a house do you need if you're a man of God? I don't know. Then again, you think about, look at the Catholic Church right now, the conclave, and all the rituals and the gold and it's one of the richest churches in the world. I guess every major religious organization has this dichotomy. There's apparent contradiction. But, you know, let's just keep it to politics for a minute. As of 2025, Bernie Sanders and his wife, Jane O'Meara Sanders, own 2 homes. They've got a primary residence in Burlington, Vermont, that they bought in 2009 for $405,000, and a lakefront summer home in North Hero, Vermont, purchased in 2016 for $575,000. Do you think most people have $1 million of a real estate portfolio? If you're fighting the oligarchy, how can you not say that Bernie Sanders is that which he fights? You think a guy with a couple of $500,000 properties is a downtrodden socialist just fighting for the little guy? Give me a break. This is comedy. And then he goes and admits it. I make no apologies. No apologies. You think I'm going to wait in line to get on a United Airlines flight? Make no apologies for that. Yeah, they're legitimate. Yeah, you can believe them. They're authentic.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.